Some important levels for you to watch this week on the stock market, metals and miners for what's happening moving forward. I've just been doing some analysis and I'm going to show you what's the important levels to focus on this week here, because if we break certain levels, then that's going to signal top in the stock market. And also when it comes to metals and miners, there's probably a bit more downside to come out of the metals and miners on the short-term level. Again, this is short-term analysis. This is for this week here. Some important levels to watch for. Let's get straight into the actual stock market here. Start off with the good old Nasdaq. The Nasdaq here. The most important thing about the Nasdaq is you can see here that we've continued to make these strong higher lows through here, higher lows all the way through here. If I bring on the last, say, at least 3 months, you can see this is the last 3 months worth of data here. Now, the most important levels here, you can see that we've had this low and we've had these higher lows through here. We've had a bit of higher low, another low through here. We had all this resistance through here, and you can see we've also got a lot of squeezing up pattern from here. We broke up. Now, the most important thing for us is that signaling that we do know eventually this very big, if we have a big squeeze up, we do know this very big bull market is going to come to an end, and we're going to see a significant correction in the market here. Now, is it going to be this week here? We don't know, but one thing that's really important for us to understand is what are we likely to see when that happens in the market here. One of the most important things that I want to watch out for is to see how fast we actually get a bit of a drop here. And what I mean by that is that if I go back in time, let me show you this here. Right, so you can see here, right, look at this here. So you'll notice here that we actually had a low, higher low, and then we had another higher low, right? You can see the market came up and that low is significant, that low up there, and then we can see we actually had a much bigger pullback from there to there. Right, and then we actually started to see up, and then we started to see a bit of a correction from there. So the one thing that I'm looking for right now, going on to the Nasdaq here, this is the Nasdaq composite here. Looking at this level here, you can see this short-term analysis, short-term trend lines coming up through here. That'll be the trend line there. And you can see it's actually pretty much like 23,000 on the composite is sort of X marks the spot around that level there. Now, why that's important for us is that because if this is going to be some sort of a top analysis here on a short-term level, we will start to see this market actually start to roll over from here, and we'll start to see that there. And if we get that, and we start to get a breaking below this level here, then there's a massive probability now we've actually signaled a short-term top, and then that's when we can start to see probably maybe even a 15% correction out of the markets. Because if I bring on this is the last 3 months. If I bring on the last 1 year worth of data, then we can see that through there, and then that's probably going to signal that. See that level? See this level all through here, right? We can see all that resistance level through there, all that through there. We can see that through there. So if we do get this, and we get a breaking below, right, we'll probably get a breaking below, we'll probably get a little bit of a rally here for a week, and then we'll probably then start to head back down towards this level here. So that's there's always the big question, right? Like, when is this big bull market going to end? When is the crash going to happen? Is the crash going to be this week, and so on and so forth, or at least a bit of a pullback? Now, all I do say is the first thing is that's what I'm watching for. But when this happens, this is a major buying opportunity. It's not the sign of a big, massive, 80% correction. You're looking for a really good buying opportunity. This is the buying opportunity. And then we're probably likely to see a massive reflation coming out of the markets. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm always watching to see what's going on in the markets. Right now, as we speak, though, we have to go with the markets. Don't be trying to pick tops right now. We're not at the top of the market. I'm just trying to show you that if we start to get this pattern in the markets, then we can start to see that we can start to possibly even, that's the trend line, then we could possibly start to see a good 15 or so % drop in the Nasdaq. Make sense, guys? But apart from that, if we don't, and we continue this upward movement, if we could just continue to hold here, right, you can see we're going up and down and up and down and up and down. All right, we had this bit of a sideways pattern through here, through there, a bit of a pullback. If we just do this here, and then we break up, then we're probably likely to go for another really big move to come, and we're not going to signal pattern. But we always want to be careful. We always want to watch out for to see, is the market signaling a potential top in the market here right now. So that's the important level there on the Nasdaq there. Let's go look at the Dow Jones from here. And this is the DJ. This is the Dow Jones. This is the support line coming up through here. And the X marks the spot level is probably around that 47,000 level. As you can see, we had a lot of sort of support and resistance around that resistance level there. There's the trend line coming up through there, Bring on the last 3 months worth of data, we can see this whole 47,000 level is indeed that whole level from there. A bit of a squeezing up, bit of a breakout, bit of a hold level from here. The reason why this is important is because if this is that level through there, and then we have this other trend line coming up through here to here, you can see it sort of X marks the spot. If this is going to be some sort of top, we'll get this in the markets, we'll get this in the markets, and we'll get that in the markets. And then we're probably likely to see, that, and then probably that through there, and the way we go from there. Looking at the bigger picture though, looking at the big picture on the Dow Jones, and the one thing that I'm watching for is to see potentially if we did get that, then we're probably likely to see a move back down towards that 45,000 level. The Dow Jones actually hasn't had a big move, so I don't expect too much. If we did get that, I don't expect too much of a drop out of the Nasdaq from there to there. Looking at the Russell here on a very short-term level basis from here. Let's go bring on the last 6 months with the data from there to there. All right, so 6 months worth of data from there to there. You can see this is that whole level coming up through there to there. I'd have to say somewhere through there. I'm just trying to get the major touching points. So that'll be probably the trend line I would use from there to there. That sort of point from there, as you can see. And it's sort of like you can see here, picked up that level there, picked up level through there. One little break, but we picked up a lot of levels through there. So this whole level through here is the most important part to me. Looking at now the last 3 months worth of data, you can see where we've had this low, we're squeezing through here. So if for some reason we start to get a breaking below here and breaking below there, then we're probably likely to see this thing rally down. Then we're probably likely to see that through there, and we're likely to see down through there. And the reason why I'm doing this for you guys is to give you important levels for this week, but then also to show you that we do know there's going to be some sort of deep correction coming soon, like a good 10+% correction, like on the S&P 500. This is the S&P 500. But we don't know when, right? So I'm always looking out, when is that going to happen? Right now, I have to go with the markets. My view has to be the trend is continuing, and this can continue just to keep going up and 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 up. And doesn't matter what we say. So I have to keep going with that. But the market will start to give us warning signs that the top is in. And that means we can never get this high here. We don't know that's going to be the top. No one knows. Stop trying to do that, okay? Oh, but John, no, okay. But if we do hold here and we start to break below these levels, there's that resistance level there. So X marks the spot right now is around 67.50. If we get that level from there and we get something like that going on for some reason, then we get a bit of a rally from here, right? Bit of a rally back up to resistance, and then we start to see a much bigger correction out of that level from there. And then that's when we can possibly start to see, once we start to get that, then we're probably going to see this market come back down towards that major resistance level from there to there. That Fibonacci level, by the way, that's probably the I don't expect to get to the 50%. That's the 50% level there. So it looks like probably through there. And again, that's a good 10% correction, 10-11% correction out of the S&P. Again, guys, buying opportunity if that does come around. The first sign of that coming around is what I said just a minute ago, and that is we break this level from here, we break down, we rally back up a little bit more, and then we start to head down from there. So that's going to be the first sign. If we do have a bit of a bearish week this week here, then that's probably going to signal and trigger a probably at least a 10% correction out of the S&P from there. So let's go look at the actual gold and silver here. Let's go look at the gold and silver. So this is the actual silver chart here. So it looks like silver is actually on its way down to around the 44 level. We've started this nice correction through here. That's that whole resistance. That's that whole support level coming up through there. So possibly around that 44,000 level. That's also that last major resistance level. If I bring up the weekly chart here, that's that major resistance level back there in the past as well too, as you can see. So around about that, if I bring on the last 6 months with the data again, that sort of 44,000 levels looks like where it's actually going to start to head back down again. So down, up, down. And this is where one of the big lessons I want you guys to really learn about these markets, if you're pretty new to the markets, is that what did you hear a month ago about the metals and miners? Did you hear the noise? Did you hear how much bullishness there was, right? They were wrong, right? The noise was wrong. Why am I telling you this? Next time it becomes noisy, have emotional control to say, hang on a minute. And then you know what to do, right? Same for this. This is the gold price here. So gold is actually continuing up from here. I don't actually just looking at that level from there, if I bring on this weekly chart, this is the weekly chart here, and this is the moving average through here. I don't expect to see, actually, let's just go back to this chart here. Let's go back to this chart here. That's that level from there to there. You know, possibly even a 50% retracement, maybe a 50% retracement. So that round about that 3,700 level. But I do expect to see, once again, this bull leg is over, and now we're starting at least what I would call what's called a time phase or resting phase from there. GDX as well too. GDX is probably going to start to make its way down towards around about this $60 level from here to here. That's that next level. That's that support level coming through there. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see this thing come back down towards the $60 level. So any sort of rally we may get a bit of a rally here, but any sort of rally here is probably going to be short-lived, and we're going to start to go through here because this here is a very big bull phase, and we've just been this has actually been extraordinary bull market. So we need at least we're going to get probably at least a couple of months of this pullback here before we continue up. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see the GDX down towards the $60 to $65 level from there. The GDXJ, this is that level from there to there. Once again, extraordinary quality move from there to there. Let me bring on the last sort of 1 year worth of data from there. Okay, so we're possibly going to have, that could be a bit of a level as well too. So that level to that level there. From there to there possibly. So if I bring on the last 6 months, so probably around that 80 to 75 level looks like it's a pretty good area to start to look at some areas from there. Yeah, so possibly that $70 level. So probably going to continue down here. We had a nice move up here, big move up from here. Now we're going through a bit of a correction. And this is probably going to happen here, guys, because we just had, if you just zoom this chart out, an extraordinary quality bull phase. This is where, if you watched my videos the last couple of months, I've been screaming at people not to get involved with this because I know people are going to start to leverage. Because then now look what's happening here right now. If you're new to my videos, you can go back through my videos and you can see how I was basically screaming at people to say, do not get involved with this. For meaning people that are just looking to, new people looking to get in and leverage up with some leverage and options and so on and so forth. And I just know that people that don't listen from there, from my 20 years of experience, I just try to help people from that perspective there. So around about $80 level there, looks like it's the GDX there from there. Let's look at the SIL. The SIL right now looks like it's about to head down. So we could actually, again, even if we do get it like a bit of a short-term bounce to come and close, there's a bit of a gap here. Even if we do get a bit of a short-term bounce, we're probably going to fail from there and then start to head back down to, I'd have to say around about that level there. Once we do get back down to this level here, then we could start to see this thing do something like this, like that, and then start to possibly even pick back up again. So possibly, even if we do rally, I'd see this thing come back down to around about that $60 to $62 level from there. Now, again, depending on if we do get a drop down, we're probably going to continue down from there. And the SIL, as you can see, all these markets here, especially the metals and miners, have gone through an extraordinary quality bull phase, and they need now time to refuel and reset to go for another move. And as you can see here, if I squeeze my charts right up again, you can see that level, that was that last major resistance level back there around that $17 level, so around there. So if I bring on the last 6 months of the data, that sort of $17 level, $18 level, that's that whole area where I expect the SIL to start to get involved with from there. Let's go look at actually Ethereum here. And Ethereum has continued to just be pretty sort of not much going on from there. If I'm looking at some levels, let me bring on through here. So Ethereum actually could be getting very, very close to a buying opportunity because we're pretty close to that level right now. Yeah, I'd have to say that that's that level from there to there. Yeah, so we're getting very, very close to a buying opportunity, I believe, out of the Ethereum market. Because if we look at this weekly chart, this is the weekly chart here, and I'm actually expecting to see. Let me actually bring this up to here. So I'm actually expecting to see this Ethereum actually bottom out here. So Ethereum's getting pretty close to actually what I believe is going to be a buying point, because I'm expecting to see Ethereum hold and start to continue back up from there. So Ethereum looks actually quite nice for potentially now another really big move. So as you can see here, what I say about the markets is we go through this phase, we go through a really big bull phase, what actually happened with the Ethereum. Well, we went through a big bull phase, right? But then we spent 1, 2, 3 months now having a bit of a pullback to this major trend line, just like I talked about with the metals and miners. And then we're probably going to start to pick back up again from there. So looking at that level from there to there. Let's go there to there. Let's make sure that we've got the trend line going on properly. So somewhere around about there, possibly even a bit lower. I'm just trying to pick up the major touching points from there to there. So that's probably what I'm seeing right now with Ethereum. So Ethereum could be getting ready for a bit of a turnaround as of this week. And looking at the good old Bitcoin, the Bitcoin right now is the Bitcoin. Bitcoin right now is pretty much on sort of a no man's land. I'm not getting any good buying opportunities or anything that's happening from there. One of the things I'm noticing when it comes to Bitcoin and what's going on is just what's happening here right now around the actual markets from here. So we actually did break below here. Now we're sort of hovering around here. Now, what I'm seeing now is if I bring on the last 6 months worth of data from there to there, right? What I'm seeing here is we're in a bit of a channel here, right? So we had this major level of support or resistance all through here, and we actually had like a bit of a support resistance up through here. So we actually had a bit of a fake out through here, came down, and now we're around about that level from there. Look what's happening through here. So one thing I'm noticing here is we're coming down and we're just doing this gyration through here. If we do start to break down, then probably we're likely to see around about this level from here, which would be that $76 level to, this is looking at the GPTC by the way, but the overall sort of pattern from here looks around that potential 76 to maybe even a bit more, possibly even a bit higher there. Yeah, somewhere around there I would have to say. So this is where it looks like it could actually start to get down to from here. I'm not expecting a big drop out of Bitcoin from here, but that's actually that level from there to there, as you can see. So once again, if we do start to hold here, we're probably likely to see a movement on the downside. So there we go, traders. That's it for me today. Traders, I'm giving away access to a free book that I've just given away, that I've put together. It's based on what's called the missing X factor to help you when it comes to the discipline, patience, mindset, emotional control, understanding the markets, and so on and so forth. All that from there. Also, I've opened up spots to my 1% club, and if you'd like to join that, where you're with me every single day for all of 2026, so I can coach you and guide you through trade selection, trade management, emotional management, letting your profits run, cutting your losses short, and all the different things that goes into identifying good opportunities, trading opportunities, management, and so on and so forth. And be with me every day for at least an hour when the market's open. Therefore, I can coach you. That's that. I think it's the third link in the description there. Or if you go to getjohnshelp.com, you can go over there, you can put your details in, you can actually apply for it, and you'll be personally speaking to me. And you and I will have a good chat on the phone, and I will see if we can sort of help you out from there. Speak to you soon, guys.